I finally finished renaming all of mine. And you'll notice that they are names that make sense. So these are not names that you couldn't figure out what they do. So if I look, triangle radio button, well, clearly that's the one. It's a radio button and it says triangle on the outside. Dimension 1 text, dimension 2 text, those are text boxes that relate to the dimensions 1 and 2. These are just labels. So labels typically don't really do much, except down here we have this one called output label. And so this one is we're gonna send text to it, so it's going to display information. So that's just the difference. But you can see the naming convention, it's very simple, it's very straightforward, and it just makes sense. So I've just scrolled down to the next page here, and now we're adding event listeners. So an event listener, it listens for an event object, like the clicking of a button or if something's selected, and then it broadcasts the information to the other objects that have registered themselves as being listeners. So what we're going to do here is we're going to double click on the calculate area button, and that's going to bring us, oh, look at that one. There we go. So I didn't click just on the name, I clicked on the side, or I could have just gone from the design and just clicked right on the source code. So either way, but when you double click, it puts it, you see how I put my cursor right down here into the calc area button action performed is what it's called. So this is the stuff I want you guys always to click on the inside and delete this code or just paste over the code. That shows you where your code should be indented so that your methods all line up. So what we're going to do, so it says here and highlight that code, and we're going to paste. And there, right here is an explanation of what's happening in the code in case you wanted to know exactly what it was. And it's important, if the indentation's off, you're going to highlight it and fix it, right? So when I copy this, because we're going from text and it's in a table, so it's not going to do it right. But that's okay, because you guys will get great practice. So I'm going to click where I'm supposed to be, right? And I do Control V to paste here. But this is off. It's not in the right area. So all you have to do, all right, I'm going to make the window wide for a second so I can fix this. I'm not sure. I'm going to close this. I did a find earlier. So I'm going to highlight this code, and I'm going to hit the tab button. It's still not aligned right because that's where the method starts. So I'm going to hit tab again. So now we can see this is where this method starts, and this is the ending of that method. And everything that's indented underneath it has to do with that method. So this is a little bit off too, so I'm just going to backspace to that line. So the lines are there to help you see where things should be aligned. Backspace, and I could put in a little space in here. Now, it doesn't know what this method is. It says it cannot find the symbol. Well, I don't have anything in my code yet about that area circle method. So that's giving me an error message, and that's okay. So you'll see that error message. Don't stress about it yet. So what this code is doing, you can see that there's an if, right? So there's a conditional statement here. So it's saying if circle radio button dot is selected. So this adds information to this radio button. So it's sort of like the math.pow, same kind of deal. So basically, if the circle radio button selected, this is what I want you to do. So they're saying we're going to have a new string variable, and it's going to be called str radius, so string radius, and it's equal to dimension 1 text, remember those text boxes where we're getting the inputs, and then dot get text. So basically, whatever the user types in there, it's going to grab that and it's going to populate it into this new variable called string or str radius. And the reason we have to do that is because when you copy it through at first, it's taking it through as a string. So these text boxes come through as a string, but we know we're getting numbers in there, so we don't want it to actually be a string. So that's why we have the second line of code. We have a new integer, and we're naming this integer variable radius, and it's equal to integer dot parse int. So we're taking the integer from this string radius variable. So we're just going to parse it out, we're going to pull it out, and we're going to populate it into the radius button. Then we're going to call the area circle method, and whatever we get back, we're going to put it into the area. So it's going to be equal to that. And we set up the double area up here. So we set it up here, so we have it, we set it equal to 0, so it creates the area variable and sets it equal to 0. So we're doing that up there, so that way we can use it within this if statement. And because we're going to have area used a bunch of different times, in each we're going to add more if statements in, so that's why we create the variable up here before we get into the if statements. Okay, so we have to do a little bit more, but we've met that Okay, so we've copied the code through, we have it right. So now it says, cut and paste your area triangle, area circle, and area rectangle methods from your week 4-2 calc area swing code. And you're going to copy it into the main method. So this one's the calc area button, perform. So we don't want it in there, so we have to scroll till we find main. So here's the main method. And we're going to go down here. We're going to just go after, so it's really after the main method. So I'm going to hit enter after that because that's their main method. So I'm going to put the word after because I can see after the main method curly brace. Okay, see if that makes any more sense. So it's after this, this is where we're going to paste it down here. We're going to paste those methods. So I already have mine open and I'm going to scroll, excuse me, and I have my code commented. I'm going to try and get from the beginning so it lines up. So these are my 3 methods. So I got the calculates the area of a circle, calculates the area of a triangle, and calculates the area of a rectangle. So I'm just going to copy those. And I'm going to go into my area calculator. And I'm going to paste here. Okay, so I've pasted those. And let's see, yep, they're all lined up just where they should be. So I have all of those new methods there. And so then it says modify my methods to return area as a double instead of printing, because all of these that we did system out print, so we don't want to do that. So I'm going to highlight this code. Excuse me. And I'm just going to do return area because we have the area up here. Now do you see automatically as soon as I did that, this popped up. Look what happens when I go over it. It says incompatible types. Expected to return value. So I have the statement in here, and right now I have the word void there. That can't be. So I have to type, oh my goodness, the biggest fly just landed on my computer. It's really gross. All right, so it's going to be double. I'm at the Trinity College Library today. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to replace the print statements with return area. So I'm going to copy this because I don't like to do things multiple times. So I'm going to go down to my triangle one. Make sure I get all my code and paste there. And then again, it gives me that error because I have to say, okay, I'm returning a double. Because these are all doubles, so I'm sending back a double. And I'm going to do the same thing down here. I'm going to highlight this, paste. Now I have to return a double. Okay, so I've done that. That's all changed. All right, so now I'm going to compile and run my code and test to see if it works for a circle. All right, I'm going to try this. Oh, except it's not going to work. Look, I see this exclamation point. I fixed all those things, but look, area circle. Well, let's see. Well, I have an area circle method. Oh, but look, it wants a parameter. It wants me to send down the radius, and this, I didn't have anything here. So I'm going to click after area circle, and I'm going to change it to the radius. And I think I'll have to put something in my directions. And I have to fix this. Remember. Okay, so now do you see that has gone away, so I don't have an error there anymore. So let's see if we can compile and run this. We'll see what happens. So let me click here. I'm going to run this. There we go. So I'm running my code. Whew. And I'm going to put that my radius is 5, and I'm going to click calculate the area, and 78, so I know this is the right value. So yay, it works. So let me see if I can do file clear. Nope, because I didn't put any code in here yet. File exit. Nope, that doesn't work. So none of that works. So all I can do to stop this one is just to click the X button, and look, I was running the first one too, so I'm going to click close that one too. Okay, so now you sure you want to cancel it? Yes, I definitely want to cancel it. Okay, so I stopped that one, and I'm going to close my output window. All right, so that looks pretty good so far. We have a few more things to do. I know this is a long video, but it's going to be worth it because you're going to be done, and it's going to work, which is going to be very exciting. Okay, so now we have to, let's think. All right, so we tested, it works for the circle. So now we have to add in 2 more else if statements below the circle radio button in the if statement from step 2, and we're going to use it as a model. So we're going to find the, so it was in the calculate. Sometimes, do you see all this code that has like, it's grayish? We can click the minus button. We can't change that type of code. Anything that's in gray, we can't change. So you can just hide it by clicking on the minus button. So we have to go back here where our if statements are, and we need to have more if statements. So we have two else ifs actually. So else if, and we're using this as a model. So this one says, or if circle radio button is selected, now we're going to do the next one, which one was next? Rectangle. All right, so now how about if rectangle radio button dot is selected, and then I need the pieces in there, okay, and so now I need the curly brace afterwards. So I'm going out here, and I do curly brace like this. I'll go curly brace, and then I'll click my cursor right in between and hit enter, and enter again, so that way everything's lined up, and then I hit tab, so I know it's in the right area. Okay, so I'm going to use that as a model. So what they have here, so I have string, and instead of calling string radius, so if for a rectangle, I have length, so I'm going to say string length, GTH, and it's going to be equal to dimension 1 text dot get text, semicolon, enter. So you might be saying, oh my gosh, Mrs. Dunn, this is painful. Well, you can copy it instead. That's fine. So here we go. We will copy this. I'm all about the copying. That's good. Okay, so I've copied it, except we have to change things. So now we don't want it to be called radius. So that's the one tricky thing of copying. You got to make sure you change everything right. So length, L-E-N-G-T-H. So integer parse, and we want to parse it from string length. L-E-N-G-T-H. Okay, so we're parsing it from the length. But now, before we call the area, we certainly don't want to call area circle, right? So we want to call area rectangle, but we need to have the second rectangle. And we're not going to send radius, we're actually going to send length and width down, right? Because we know we have to send length and width. But look, it's giving me an error message because I haven't put length in yet, or width in yet. I've only done length. So if you want, again, you can copy the ones ahead. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to hit enter. And I'm going to paste it. So now it's giving me error messages because they're like, hey, you have the same thing twice. So it doesn't like that, obviously. So in this one, instead of string length, I'm going to have this one be string width. And instead of dimension 1 text, I have to change it to dimension 2 text, right? Because there's 2 text boxes and this one needs 2. So it's going to get the text from there, and then this one's going to be width with a lower, DTH. Oops. My cursor's so huge, and then when it's so huge, I sometimes can't see what I'm doing. And width. Okay. So now we have that. So that looks pretty good. And I did else if because, again, these are mutually exclusive. Unlike the favorite number where you could get a couple different responses back, so you couldn't use else ifs, this one you can only get one. You can't pick multiple radio buttons. So I'm going to test it again. I like to test partway through to make sure it works. So now I know that I've just done the rectangle one, so I'm going to make sure the rectangle works, because what if it doesn't work? I want to know now before I code everything. There we go. Now I have my 5, 6, 7, 8. So I know that this one works now. Perfect. Yay. So now I'm opening my NetBeans up again, and I close this. And I say, yes, I want to stop it. Okay, so now I'm going to pause it so you get the other part for the triangle radio button. So I'm not going to type the whole thing. You're going to do it yourself, and you're going to make sure, you're going to test it and make sure it works, and then we'll move on to the next part. Okay, I'm running my code now, and I hope that you've all able to copy through, and you're going to test your code too. So for the triangle, I like to use a base of 6 because I know half of 6 is 3, and then I do a height of 9, so I know I should get 27. And so I got 27 square inches. I actually deleted the part where it gave me the wrong thing. It gave me 54, and that was because I copied my code. I did everything right, except I forgot to send it to the triangle method, and I was still sending it to the rectangle method. And so it ended up calculating for the rectangle. So you might find that you make an error like that and it's no big deal. You just go back into your code and fix it. I went back to my original code, to the design screen, and I want to show you when I was trying to look for the source code for the next part of what we're going to be doing. So this is the very ending. This is exciting. I wasn't seeing what I needed, so I just want to show you what you can do. If I want to go to the clear, watch, if I double click, it'll bring me back to the clear. Let's see if I can see my clear. Here we go. Clear menu action item performed. And notice I don't see right now the exit one for whatever reason, so I can do the same thing. If I go to exit and I double click and then I scroll up, now it says as exit menu action performed, and it probably was under one of the minuses. It probably was just, you know, closed up, but I wanted to show you if that happens to you not to panic and how you can go back to the design and double click in order to get into the code. Okay, so the next step, so this is step number 8 for finding the clear menu, which is here. So remember, we delete that to do because we never want to see that. That's horrible. And we need to set the text. We need to make the text show. We need to set it back to nothing. So if we want to clear it, so if we type something in and we make a mistake, we want to be able to clear that screen off if we go into the menu. And so they gave us the ideas of how to do that. So there's some different labels that we need to change. So we need to have the dimension 1 and 2, which are the input boxes, cleared out. And we need to have the output label cleared out. And then step 9 is also the circle radio button. We need to set that back to being selected as true. Because if I was like testing on the rectangle and I wanted to clear, I want it to go back to be the default, which was the circle. And so it tells you right here that what you need to do to set the output label. So it's output label dot set text equals, and you put the blank quotation marks. So you want to do that for all of the different. So I'm just going to put 1 in so that you know what to do. So we'll do the dimension 1 text dot set text, and then we put the blank boxes. And so what that will do is that'll change, it'll set the text to be nothing. So let's see what it's giving me for an error message. Dimension 1 text it cannot find. Did I spell it wrong? Yes, I did. I spelled it wrong. Dimension, there we go. And so now you can see that it turns to the green color. So I just made a typo error, and all I had to do when it says it can't find it, that means I've made some type of mistake. So that would do that one piece. And you're going to go through, you're going to do the same thing for dimension 2 text. You're going to do the same thing for the output label. And then you're going to also do the circle radio button. So I'm skipping and I'm just going to show you step number 9. So you're going to do circle radio button dot set selected to true. True. And then semicolon. So that one's going to set the radio button. So that one's going to be true, and the others will be reset. So that's for that code. And then down here for the exit menu. So remember, you're going to do some more than what I just did. You're going to add the 2 other lines of code in there. So you're going to follow step 8. And then the last thing for this, we're going to do system, I'm going to spell system right, system.exit, and we're putting a 0 in there, semicolon. And so what that's going to do is it's just going to close out the program if I do that. Then you're going to compile and run your code, and when you're all set, you're going to zip the code.